button, Tom.
I did. Oh, we're live. Hey, Tom Stewart here. Smart Business Moves. Got Liz with us. Our guest today is Sharon Tinberg.
Woohoo!
Hey, Sharon, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Tom, how many times have I told you it's not
Tinberg.
Tinberg?
I'm sorry. I knew that. Susan said it. Sometimes
As long as you call me,
Sharon.
I don't care what you call me.
Nice.
Okay.
He's just got a nickname for you,
I
Sharon.
was just kind of off balance because I didn't even know we were live because you guys were distracting me. And it's like, okay, crap, now we're live. What am I supposed to say? And
Tom, I don't know how you could possibly, at this point in the game, still be distracted by any of the random stuff I talk about. How have you not gotten past that?
it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I'd kind of, hey, guess what? We're in a new month now. It's March.
Yes, it's my birthday month. Yes, it is. I'm excited. Yeah, and
Your
it's
birthday-
my grandbaby's birthday month. That's
Your
more.
birthday, your birthday's a long time away.
Tom, you keep track of my birthday because it's so close to yours. So
Yes, the day before. And Alonzo's is the day after. Isn't that really
That's
cool?
not funny.
Yeah.
I know. It's
Yeah.
birthday time. Okay, but
Oh.
more exciting, it's my grandbaby's birthday. She's gonna be 4.
Oh, wow.
Oh no, I'm so excited.
It sounds like that she could, that's kind of getting to the age where they become a little more of a little more difficult to keep up with. Like they run around and a little more
She
active.
was running around like when she was 3. Now she does a little bit more reading and sitting. So I'm hoping.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for her birthday, Liz?
I'm so glad you asked. So we're going there tomorrow. We will fly there tomorrow. Her birthday party, she's having a pool party on Saturday, and there's, I don't know, like 45 people coming. But what Grammy and Gramps are doing is taking her shopping on Friday, and she gets to buy anything she wants. So she's so excited. She keeps sending pictures of things she wants. Could I get this, Grammy? Yes, you can. I can? Yes, you can. Can I get this? Yes, you can.
There's no limit?
No limit.
Oh, Tom, we need to get a list to this girl.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Shara's going to like give her a picture of a Tesla.
No worries, she's 4.
Well,
Next year, we might have to rethink this, right? I'm already thinking like, how can I incorporate the number like 4 into what she gets, right? You can have 4 items or, yeah. But the number keeps getting bigger, so that's kind of scary. I feel like a 17-year-old would definitely want like something bad. I don't even know what. Anyway, I'm excited. So,
hey, did you guys hear the news? Did you guys hear the news the other day where Target is announcing that they're going to be bumping wages up to like $24 an hour for some of their, not in every city, but in some markets for like their starting wage?
I did hear that. Yeah, I read that. Where did you send that out, Tom, to us?
I think Matt posted it in some of the Facebook groups,
Yeah.
but I remember back like a year ago, I was listening to like one of the heads of one of the fast food chains, and he says, well, $15 an hour is what it's about now, but the day is going to be coming really soon. It's going to be like $25 an hour. That when you throw inflation and everything else on, we might get there quicker than what anybody thought.
Yeah. And as soon as the problem there is, as soon as one company does it, and now it's starts to become the expectation, right? That's where people are like, well, if that's fair for Target, then it's fair for, cleaning toilets and Walmart and every place else. So, yeah.
It's going to be interesting. You wait over the next couple of months. I bet some of the other large employers are going to be right behind them. You're going to see Amazon. You're going to see, Walmart usually lags a little bit, but there's going to be other large employers are going to be right behind them.
I don't see how there's a choice. Right? I don't think there is a choice.
And then inflation steps in.
Yeah.
Pretty soon we'd be looking at wage and price controls.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
It's going to be a little wonky here for a while. It's going to be interesting. So, Sharon, we brought you on today to be talking about employee engagement. How do you think that the money, this money thing that we're talking about right now, how's this going to play in with the employee engagement piece?
Well, you're probably going to have to raise the prices one more time. I was preparing for this, though, and read a couple pieces that said that engaged employees increase your profits by 24%.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
that's a good number. I like that number a lot.
I would say that's a lot of money. So I would take some time to figure out how to engage your employees.
A lot of those surveys, the surveys like that I've seen kind of follow that up with, then typically about 20% of your workforce is engaged if you're lucky.
Right.
Yeah. And if they are engaged, they also last 83% longer than your other employees. So I'm going to say the challenge is to figure out how to engage your employees, which quality driven. Paul did a great job with this, I thought, and that engagement one. And as you said, it was the best attended. It's time consuming. And we live in a world where people don't want to put that much time in anymore. They want to spend the 5 hours a day that computers have saved them with their families, relaxing, starting another business. It takes time to engage your employees. And I don't know, maybe you're going to have to give up a little bit of that time and go back to the engagement because it'll make you 24% stronger on the bottom line. So maybe get more money out of your company than starting another one. I don't know.
Actually, Sharon, you know what? I think you kind of, hit the nail on the head there with one of the main reasons why employee engagement is such a challenge, because it does take time, and it takes a lot more time than people think it's going to change or take, and more than they're willing to invest. I think that even if they hear those numbers, like Tom didn't do any research to have, I'm guessing, Tom, you didn't do anything.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. And so even you've heard this number. You knew that 20% is the typical what they hear. Hey, Denise. Hey, Jeffrey. We typically hear that 20% is about the number of how many people are engaged in your company, right? Are typically engaged. So we hear the numbers, we know the numbers, and still we don't want to invest the time. And I think you're right that that's getting worse, not better. Hey, Libby, good to see you again. I know those things. Oh, yeah. Quality driven. Yeah, Jeffrey. All right. Loving the quality driven there. Yeah, it's funny. We all just saw each other like less than a week ago, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. So at quality driven. So, so what do you think, Sharon, is one of the best ways to engage people that we know is going to take time, but like what are some suggestions? What are some ideas from your perspective of things that we can do? Where are we going to invest the time?
Well, Paul mentioned it in this quality-driven presentation, and I'll tell you, I would never not do it, and that's one-on-ones on a weekly basis. And that seems to have just been, that was a problem pre-COVID. When I was consulting like you, Liz, if owners started complaining about their employees, I would always ask them if they were doing their one-on-ones, and of course they weren't. Yeah. And when they went back to doing them, they fell in love with their employees again because they were engaging with them and also got to know them and went, wow, blah, 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 blah. And the more you're with somebody, the friendlier you get, the more pats on the back you get from your employees. I mean, someday they're going to walk out of your office with their arms around you going, it's COVID, granted, but hey, we're all hugging one another, saying, I really appreciate you as a boss. Well, if you don't have one-on-ones, you don't hear that stuff. Right. And they don't say that stuff. And if they say it, they can hardly quit the next day. At least you got them for one more day. I'm saying get engaged with your employees just like you want your employees to get engaged with you. The ball goes in both directions.
So Sharon, I don't know what we're going to fight about if you keep saying all this smart stuff.
Oh, come on. We're just getting started here. We'll find something.
Well, we just started happy hour earlier. No.
So, but okay, but you know what I love about what you said? This is the thing nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to do the work first. They want the employees to do their thing first. They just need to be a better employee. They need to work harder. They need to be more committed. They need to, have better attendance. They. But your point is, no, it starts with us. We have to do our part better. We do our part better. And that's what gets them going. Somebody's got to start the flywheel, but it's not them. It's us.
Yes.
So,
And it doesn't have to be you. If you have managers, if you have, you're going to have, I don't know that trainers can do this. That's the issue, is they're cutting out that middleman. And if you don't want to do it, then you probably do have to put in one level of somebody who's going to do one-on-ones, and it can't really be the trainer.
Why not the trainer?
Maybe it can. You guys have to stretch.
Maybe we can fight here. Why not?
It might even be their supervisor, but it has to be. But then again, I think that needs to be supervised. But somebody has to sit down with them every week for hopefully only 5 minutes. But the week when you're absolutely buried will be the one when they need 35 minutes. And you're going to have to give it to them, because you're going to save an employee if you take the time, and you don't know when they need it if you don't do it every week. You have to do it the same time, same day, every week, so that they know that they'll stop whining, because they know they get their moment with you to whine to you.
Or like you said, or your emissary, right? But it's the company. They need to feel like they're connecting. So in my terms, clean profit builder terms, it's called matter, meaning, and measure. They need to feel like they matter to the company, that they matter to somebody, that if they were gone, somebody would think that things were not as good simply because they were gone. Something. So they need to feel like they personally matter. So, but tell us about how are you saying, Sharon, that they have to sit down with them in person, even now in COVID times when people
Zoom? Oh my God. Sometimes I think I get a better connection with people on Zoom than I got first face to face. You see the expressions. I love Zoom. I don't even know why anybody goes anywhere anymore. Just Zoom. I love it. And that's coming from antiquated me. But I'm really feeling for people's vibes and whether or not they're excited or they're just sitting there like this, No, Zoom. I can't believe that people stopped communicating so much with their employees at a time when it was so important. And that was COVID time. Yeah. But nobody said, I'm having one-on-ones with my employees on Zoom. No. Shame on everybody. You could have stayed connected with your people if you would have Zoomed with them 30 minutes every week, because that's when they needed you more than any other time in their lives.
I think that a lot of business owners were afraid. They didn't know what to say. They didn't have all the right answers, but
just say hi.
Yeah.
Thinking about you.
We've got a couple of important messages here. We got a shout out for Liz's new haircut.
This is not a new haircut. So this is just I'm curling it differently, y'all. Actually, I got my bangs cut a month ago. Not one person said a thing. So maybe that's what you're talking about, Libby. Thank you.
Hairspray, Liz. Was it the hairspray? Are you continuing to do that?
Yeah. I
do that.
Hairspray tip there, my trick. Yeah.
And Denise saying that she uses Slack as part of this communication protocol.
Well, to Sharon's point, communication is communication, right? Let's communicate with them. Don't drop off on the communication. So what I'm hearing from you, Sharon, is that your first thought to employee engagement is communicating, having more communication more often, at least once a week. And that would be your first place to send people for more engaged employees.
But before we get to that, Liz, this is important. We got more hair stuff going on here. It's the right.
Thanks, Libby.
I'm sorry, Sharon. Go ahead.
No, don't be sorry. I think it's funny. They're communicating. I believe that communication is communication, but I think once a week you should Zoom so you see that the whites of their eyes. There's still something to be said for seeing the whites of their eyes. What kind of reaction do they have? Are they just telling you what you want to hear? It's harder to hide it on their face. So I'm going to say, if you can't find enough time to do that, perhaps you have too much going on. I mean, I did these up to 16 employees. I mean, those poor people were sitting in the lobby. If somebody needed 45 minutes, they were like so mad at me when I came out of my door, and I would never let them go home. If they were absolutely adamant that they had to get to their kids, I would grab them and their paycheck, and I would close the door and say, see, they couldn't get their paychecks until they talked to me.
Yeah.
And that's the way I forced myself to talk to everybody. So I would close the door and say, is there anything we need to talk about? And they'd go, no, Sharon, we're fine. Let us out of here.
Just give me my money.
But once in a while, they would say, yes, I want to be next. And it would save the employee.
Maybe I can get some disagreement going with this question, okay? Like I think everybody agrees that one-on-ones is good and weekly is certainly a good cadence, but what is the best practice for actually doing a one-on-one? What do you say? How do you do it? How long should it be? Are there any, should it be like a structured format with like a form or something, or checklist, or how do you do a one-on-one?
Actually, I have a form, because when I told my first client, like consulting, to do on one-on-ones, they called me the next day and said, well, that was awkward. What was I supposed to say? And I thought, well, I never thought about that because they're so natural to me. So I had a list. We started out with the attaboys, because you can never, the rule of thumb is you have to do 3 attaboys for every aw shit. So you have to get as many attaboys as you can find, because you're going to have a whole lot of aw. Okay. So I used attaboys a lot. I would call them and say, good job. I'd pat them on the back. And then when they came to their one-on-one, I'd do it one more time. So I started with any attaboys that week. Then I went to the shoot.
I'm laughing because 20 years ago or longer, we had, ABs and ASs, and we actually had reports that would print out, and it was like, what's AB and AS stand for? And it's like, don't worry about it.
But Sharon is telling us now. Now we know the secret about what that is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's okay to say it on air now. It would not have been okay to do it back then.
No.
It's 2022. We're good.
Yeah.
Then third was efficiency. We discussed any home they went over and then why they went over.
So you know what, Sharon, you were ahead of your time with that, with the efficiency thing. You know how long it has taken people to get on board with this idea. And I know, so for those of you that are on here, when Sharon's talking about efficiency, that's what we typically call productivity now. We kind of switched the terminology on her a little bit there.
It's time for me to retire.
But it's still the same thing. But it's still the same thing as you were on all the jobs. You were checking that people were making time on the jobs. Tom, we, as much as like just maybe even 4 years ago, when we were teaching foundations, nobody was checking productivity, were they? Mm-hmm. Nobody. No, at all.
Was not a consideration.
No. And Maid Central really, I think, opened up a lot of people's eyes around that. But you did first, because you have been talking about that, again, decades.
Well, that's how you make your money. And Tom, I'll tell you this. So when I did 95 homes a day, I paid Anna, she loved it, 52 hours a week. So I had to pay her overtime to figure out the efficiency on 95 jobs. So you might want to push that a little bit more. It cost me a fortune to have Anna do that. It really did. But
and it's so easy Central, right? It's hard to imagine.
Now it's like click a button. There goes Anna's job.
Doesn't need that job.
Really, I mean, when you're big, this is big money. But if you don't watch this big money, it's also big money if they're not hitting efficiency.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Plus, we always paid, we had the boards. I mean, we didn't pay a regular bonus, but they could get a lot of money on the bonus board. So that had to be done for that. You can't have a bonus board and not have it updated every day.
Yeah, of course not.
So,
So Sharon, I think your swearing is getting you some fans over here. I think Livy is
uh-oh.
saying that you're now her new favorite person.
But you know what? I like her. I like her a lot. Honest to God, she's a stitch.
I don't think that there is anybody I know out there that doesn't like Libby, right?
Oh, I can totally understand that.
There's
Yeah,
some people that don't care for you. There's some people that don't care for me. There's some people that don't care for Tom. But Libby, I've never heard a bad
oh,
thing.
she's a stitch. That whole group. Paul, oh my God, he's so funny. Oh my, I'm still laughing
I
about
agree.
him. He's a stitch.
Even Libby's husband is really a delight.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Day and night. Day and night.
It's true. All right.
But hang in there, Libby. Keep working at it. You'll find somebody that won't like you.
Yeah.
Look, even Maria is saying Libby's amazing. So if anybody doesn't think
See, exactly. So Libby, hang around with me for a month. You'll get people not liking you. I promise.
It's so funny. She likes him young. Oh, her husband. That's right. He's young.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. She wants to raise them the way she wants to raise them. I think it's a great idea.
We're talking husbands right now, Tom. In case you're wondering, you weren't there at that. You weren't there at the fire pit that night.
No.
We were talking about that. Yeah. Okay, so let's get back on track here. Look at me with my serious face back on again. So employee engagement. I think we all agree. Tom, you agree with this too about productivity, how important productivity is toward meet your profit objectives, right? To make more money. But tell me about the engagement piece. Tell me how that ties into the engagement piece, because I'm a big believer in this, but I'd love people to hear it from a new perspective, Sharon.
So how the profit
how talking to them about their productivity and how showing them what their productivity is and checking in on their productivity. How is that engaging for?
Well, you know, okay, here goes my antiquated age, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I lost a really good client after one session. That should be long term. You're much better at this than me. So she said, I mean, her people were like going over like an hour job to an hour and a half. Yeah. And I said, well, when you talk to them about this, what are they saying? She goes, oh, I've never talked to them about it. Like, don't give me. I mean, she was easy. Okay, let's admit it. But she was pretty big. I mean, she maybe had 14 cleaners. I think she was afraid that if she talked to them about it, they'd quit their jobs. You know, that's how some owners feel. Absolutely. But I don't think holding information does anybody any good. But lots of owners like to hold information to their chest because it makes them feel powerful. I feel like, who is it? This is the more you share, the more they're going to grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let them know, hey, you're pretty slow. And what do I need to do to speed you up a bit here? And that should start with training. I mean, remember, engagement goes in two directions. Even negative feedback is engagement. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's more engaging than positive feedback, you know?
Yeah, actually, probably most of the time. I'm not sure it's the type of engagement that makes people stay there all the time. But I would argue the point that people need to know where, and this goes to matter, meaning, measure again, people need to know how they're measuring up. Are you doing well? According to what we care about. And if productivity is what you care about, they need to know where they sit there. Back to expectations as well, right? People need to know what the expectation is. If you feel like you're doing a good job, and then you'll feel it if you're not, and people aren't happy with what you're doing, if they don't tell you, how do you feel better?
Well, and I think you need to ask that question, because most people that we hire do not have the guts to come in your office and say, you know what, Liz? Yeah. You know, now we can easily tell them, but vice versa is very hard. So one of my questions, and I have these all written out, I mean, I definitely have them, is we switch after I'm done talking about what I want to talk about. We turn to them and say, number one, when I start a new person, we set goals. They have to set some goal. And if they can't think of one, I think of one for them. So maybe it's like, okay, you know, and I tell them that if you don't think of your own, I get to set one for you, and I think you'd be happier with yours. But it can be something like they want to help their kids get a better grade in school and reading. And then I just follow them on that path. Or let's say they want to go back to school. Well, then we set a small goal like, well, where do you want to go? And we continue on that question in every one-on-one until we figure out where they want to go to school, and then we take it to the next step. Okay. So we talk about their goals. We talk about what went well that week, which I think you do, but it's better behind closed doors. If you want to say in a group what went well that week, the people who are going to say what went well that week are already engaged. It's the other ones that don't say anything that you want to get engaged, and they'll do that behind closed doors because they're comfortable there. Okay.
That's a better opportunity for sure.
Yeah, because they're not competing with the already blah, 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 like you and me. Good luck to them. You know? So, and you don't need to hear from you and me. We're engaged. You need to hear from the other ones. Okay. So, and it's also comfortable place to get a real story of what happened, why they missed the cobwebs or whatever it is. You aren't going to get that in front of somebody. Well, I didn't mean to say cobwebs. Why they missed the dirt behind the door in the bathroom. Okay. Yeah. I say you can't, if somebody calls up and says they did that, you don't talk about that in a meeting. Because
all right, here we go. We get to argue now. Yay. Okay. I'm so excited.
Talk about it if you want to, but the people who really did it probably won't think they're the ones who did it.
Now and that we're going to agree on. We are going to agree on that. Yeah. Okay. But we're going to argue about where to say it. We got to do that.
Well, if you're having a one-on-one, if you say it in a group meeting, people who didn't do it have to sit and listen to you talk about, rag about the dirt in the corner. And the ones who did do it probably won't admit it. But if they did do it, we need to find out why they did it and correct that problem. And you really can't do that in front of everybody else because that's against every rule I've heard. But it could be that they need new glasses. I've bought lots of people glasses. You aren't going to find that out in the middle of a meeting. You're going to find that out in a one-on-one, which is why I say, or maybe they don't have in their process where they close the door and they do miss it. And maybe they'll admit that. Yeah, I forget to close the door a lot. Or they just don't give a rat's you know what, and they need to be exited. So all that will only happen in a one-on-one. That won't happen if you bring it up in a group meeting, in my opinion.
Okay, Liz, give it to us.
Right. So I'm going to agree with part of what you said, and I'm going to disagree with part too. So I think it's important to bring up problems that a customer has a problem. I think that problem is important to bring up in front of the whole company, because my thinking is nobody's doing anything wrong. So Sharon, if you missed the cobwebs at a house, I'm bringing that up in a company meeting. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because if Sharon's missing cobwebs, y'all, so is everybody else. Sharon is a great employee and Sharon does a great job. If Sharon's missing cobwebs, I promise you, we all need to jump on the cobweb train and be chucking around on our cobwebs. Unless, Sharon, you think that you didn't do the cobwebs on purpose. Was there anything going on there? And then
I think I fell off the process wagon. But that doesn't mean everybody else fell off the process.
No, probably it is. Anybody else having that kind of an issue where you should be doing something, but you kind of fell off? Here's an example. I know that we've also been having a problem with not all of our baseboards are getting wiped. Some of them are being done with a cobwebber. Y'all know who you are there. And that's because sometimes we're just taking the shortcut. We're trying to make it easy, not because we fell off the process wagon, right? Sometimes we know that when we go into a shower, we're supposed to clean from the bottom to the top because we don't want those drip marks, right? But sometimes we clean from the top to the bottom. Why? Fall off the process wagon. So my thought is for everybody in the meeting, we all need to be on board with this. It's not a Sharon problem. it's a company problem it's not even a problem. It's something to look at. The more we look at this stuff as a company, the better our whole company will be. We don't really need just Sharon to be better. We all need to be better. All right. So that's my spiel. And that's a way for me to get all of my people engaged and not have it be Sharon's doing anything wrong. What are you doing wrong?
Do you like identify when you're talking to the group that Sharon is the one that that missed the cobwebs? Or
I would say it this way. Hey, y'all. Mrs. Smith said that we're not getting we're missing cobwebs at her house. Anybody else having trouble with cobwebs?
Yeah. Mrs. Smith, Sharon's house, Mrs. Smith.
I would let Sharon say it. I wouldn't say it. I'd let Sharon say it. I would say we're having trouble at Mrs. Smith's house. She said we're not getting cobwebs. Anybody else having trouble with cobwebs? If Sharon doesn't say anything, then I might say something along the line.
My people knew whose house was whose. My really engaged people would have no problem saying, yeah. I can hear Cassandra right now saying, isn't that your house? Sharon, yeah. I hear it now. Yeah, I went down.
Paul's got a point here, and I like this. This is kind of a good variation. This is the best of both worlds, kind of closed door, one-on-one, and then the understanding is we're going to share what happened here with the entire group, not necessarily calling that person out by name, but just to make sure that everybody knows.
So, and this is the part where I said I agree half, and I don't agree with the other half. And the half that I do agree with is it does need to have a one-on-one, because all of the other things that you said, Sharon, you're right. Those things will only happen in a one-on-one. I just don't want to leave out the group piece, because I do believe that the group piece is really, really important for the engagement and for the overall feeling of camaraderie. I like the feeling of we're all in it together. And just because one person misses cobwebs, that's not a bad thing for that one person.
It's kind of like driving down the interstate, and you see a car with a, pulled over, having a ticket written with the flashing lights and so forth. Everybody kind of slows down a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the point.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I have this philosophy that when you are in a group of 2 or more people and you're a leader, everything that comes out of your mouth should be positive.
Oh, okay. I don't have
Otherwise,
that. We can argue some more.
Otherwise, you're in a management role.
All right.
So I try very hard to have my meetings just upbeat, upbeat, upbeat. And part of the reason I did this is I once had both kinds at MCI Long Distance.
Okay, wait a minute. You are in direct conflict with what you said earlier. You also said earlier, maybe you weren't live, you said that you should have an argument every single day. Do you consider arguments to be positive? I do.
Oh, that was behind closed doors with one person.
I got you.
With my
so
boss.
You meant in 2 or more. All right.
So when I'm in a management role in a one-on-one with my employee, and it's actually my one-on-ones were teams. So I had teams of 3, and I would have all 3 together in my one-on-one, because that created synergy and bonding between that team.
Okay.
And if there were any problems with that team, if you see them every week behind closed doors, as soon as they walk in and sit down, you can go, okay, what's up? Why are you scowling at them? You haven't looked in their eyes for the last 2 minutes. What the heck is going on? And if you diffuse that problem on a weekly basis, that's why I had so many people for so long. I really believe that. I really believe that, because I diffused it right away. Again, I would never see that in a meeting. You only see that when you're in a one-on-one with the 3 of them together. But it did really bond them. It truly did. And then we could have some arguments if the 3 of them decided they want to gang up against me. It could get kind of heated. But that was fine.
All right. So tell me how you address. So do you never in a group then, Sharon, are you saying that in a group you would never talk about problems in the company, or would you just talk about you wouldn't talk about problems?
If I felt that it needed to be discussed with every team. So my memory is good, but I got big. So I was doing, as I said, I guess I was doing 18 people when I finally got a field manager, and that was crazy. So I had a notebook with tabs in the old days, and I had a team tab for everyone. And I would write down in the tab, like the attaboy that I needed to discuss at their one-on-one and all of that. So if I had an issue that I'd heard from more than one client, I thought, yeah, now I'm with you, Liz. They all need to hear this. I would write it down 6 times under each team so I wouldn't forget to discuss it. And when they came in, I would just check off what I wanted to discuss. But no, that problem was discussed one-on-one because, again, I want to address it with them individually. I want to make sure that it hits home, especially with the 2 clients that have now complained,
Okay. So what about other problems? Like, I don't understand.
Like what problem?
A problem that we're overall in our company. So you would address every problem as although a person did something wrong, not as a company issue for us all to solve.
No, that's not true.
How about
if it was things like,
here's an example. How about towels are coming up missing?
Oh, I would. I counted my towels in by team. I counted every towel in and out by team.
So you would have a one-on-one with that team then?
I didn't really have to because in Texas I could charge it for them, so I just took it off.
Never mind.
I remember when I started this, I had I'm going to say 700 more towels the next week than when I started the counting. Because they said, well, if we bring in towels, you can get paid for them too. And I said, sure, I'll buy them back. I had 700 towels sitting in my office, and they never lost another one. They stood there and watched Anna. She did that too. Anna count every towel out and count every towel back in. And it was worth the money because when you have 95 clients a day, they lose a lot of towels.
A lot of towels, yeah. I absolutely could, for sure. Yeah. All right. Okay. So I'm intrigued by this idea that you never had anything negative to say in a group of 2 or more. That's really interesting to me. Yeah, it's really interesting.
I'm just going back and thinking of all those scenarios where you needed to kind of get everybody together and talk about what we would call a non-conforming issue. Yeah. And, every once in a while you get something like, I'm thinking of something like theft or somebody who had an automobile accident that was, avoidable, or any type of accident, arguably
is. Wouldn't talk about that with everyone. She would only talk about it with the people that had the mistake.
No, well, yeah, you would. And after you fire them, you get everybody to get, if it's a theft thing, then you get everybody together and just kind of say, you know what, look around you. So-and-so is not here anymore, and let me explain why. And they're going to, share all of you our policies on this and how it works. And just, I need everybody to make sure that you understand there's consequences. I mean, it's a friendly reminder, Uh-oh.
You know what, Tom? A thief is a thief. And it won't matter what you say. If they have sticky fingers, it doesn't matter if their parents have millions of dollars. I had a thief working for me at MCI. I couldn't believe it. She was a sorority gal, part-time, and she was stealing purses off my sales floor. A thief is a thief, and I don't think it matters what you say. They're going to.
We've had over the years, occasionally we would have a technician who was trying to poach clients, and we would invite them to leave the organization, and then we would get everybody together and say, hey, so-and-so is not here anymore. Let us explain why, and this is kind of the rules about that, and we take this very seriously, and I appreciate everybody here being trustworthy and honorable, but it's just good for us all to understand as a reminder how seriously we take this as a company.
All right.
And I have to say I had a stronger grapevine than you had. I can guarantee you my employees knew what happened, and they knew what happened to them. I didn't have
well, they would. They would too. I mean, it wasn't like everybody was shocked. I mean, they already knew it by then. But
I bet if you were having more one-on-ones, you would have known about it sooner. I think that's what Sharon's point is.
Well,
that
that
have one-on-ones.
maybe, we're not awesome at the one-on-ones, but I'm taking some notes here, and there's always chances to be better.
I think there's an opportunity missed when you don't talk about any negatives. And let me tell you what the opportunity is here. Well, actually, there's two opportunities. The first one is one of the best ways to engage people and create cohesiveness in an environment, in a group, in a team, is to give them a common enemy. And so if you create a common enemy for people, it's us against whatever. It's us against missing towels. It's us against cobwebs. It's us against whatever the bad thing is, the negative thing is. That's an engaging tactic. So I think it's missing an opportunity to not create that common enemy. That's the first one. The second one is I believe that everybody needs to know where we stand. And this is a story that I heard somewhere, I don't know. And I usually say that it's my story and tell it that way. And then later I tell the truth. But right now I'm just going to tell you, it's a story I read somewhere. And this is a story about a mom. She's in the front seat of the car, and the baby and the 4-year-old are sitting in the back seat of the car. And the 4-year-old is being really, really quiet. And the mom says, "Hey, Susie, you are being so quiet. What a good little girl you are." And for the rest of the day, little Susie is a brat from Hades. And the reason she was a brat from Hades is because in the back seat, she was actually writing all over her little brother's shoes when she was told that she was being a good girl. And so that bad feeling comes out as, and this is a normal thing that happens. If we're told that we're doing a good job when we're really not, and we know that we're not underneath, we actually start feeling worse, not better. Being told you're doing a good job when you know you're not feels dishonest and feels bad. So what you got, Tom? I like that.
Well, I'm just wondering, I was like, well, how bad do I have to be in order for me, how bad can I be and still get away with it?
What can I get away with? Yeah. So there are people that are still going to try and get away with more bad stuff. Is that what you're trying to encourage? Probably not.
Start, right on the kid's face or something,
So mom will catch me and it'll be more obvious, and then I'll have to pay the price. And this is not everybody, right? But the majority of the population wants to do a better job. We want to do a good job. We're trying to do a good job. So those are the 2 points that I really wanted to make toward.
Okay, now my debate style requires that I get to use my flow chart here.
Absolutely, go for it. Sharon.
I'll start with the one freshest on your mind first, which is people not doing a good job and being commended for doing a good job. I'm not going to assume that everybody in that room is not doing a good job. I'm going to assume everybody is doing a good job, and I've found the ones that aren't, and I'm going to talk to them behind closed doors. So again, I see no need in that room. I'm going to assume that I know who's not, especially with all the tools you all have now to know who's not doing a good job. I mean, come on. I paid Anna to do that too. No wonder she had 52 hours. Figure out who's giving her all the response cards with the 5s and the 4s and the 3s and all that stuff.
I hated those cards. I'm so happy.
Oh my God. Stamp them and leave one if they have another one. And that was ridiculous. Okay. Now, so that was my response to your second thing. Your first one is the engaging tactic that you use, all getting together and to go after something.
Us against a common enemy.
Exactly. I feel that there are 2 ways to engage people. One is a gun and one is a fishing rod, where you kind of reel them in.
Engaging?
Well, I kind of feel like yours is a gun, Liz.
You definitely would get their attention.
It's like you're ganging up for a negative reason again, though. What you're ganging up together and what's pulling you together is not positive, it's negative. Where I would rather reel them in with something positive and have them engage themselves rather than me giving them the reason to engage. Because
I really love some intrinsic motivation there, and it can be engaging, but I feel like it's common wisdom that the most engaging thing is common enemy. So you want to get a country all on the same page, fight a war.
Yeah.
Common enemy. That bad timing probably to be bringing this up. Sorry for everybody that hit a sore spot on. I'm knocking wood over here.
You have to remember, Liz, I was from the generation that wore the big peace signs on our chests, our bare chests.
We didn't. I mean, I'm hoping you're not going to share visuals there.
Okay.
Today. Okay, let's see. Jeffrey has a couple of questions. You said something around table in Vegas, hire an employee and kick them out after 5 years. All right. So if I said I kicked them out after 5 years, I was being a smart aleck and being a little sarcastic there. What I should have said is that we helped them create what?
Jeffrey probably went back to the office and fired 3 people.
I'm sorry if I said that. I did not mean that.
I'm sorry, but Liz says I have to do this.
All right. You've been here 5 years and a day. You're out of here. Yeah. No, what I was trying to communicate, Jeffrey, was that I don't want people to stay at my company longer than 5 years. They're more of a liability after 5 years. And so, okay, good. I'm glad you didn't fire anybody. What I was trying to communicate is when they first come to our company, they're given a 5-year ladder. So it shows them how they can move up in our company and then out at hopefully by the 5-year mark, somewhere around that 5-year mark, move on to a different job, a different position, to their next thing that they're going to do. So that's what I meant. I hopefully that's more clear. And I'm really glad to hear that you did not fire anybody. Yay for you. And then Jeffrey also says, not to pound QDS, but if you use the software, you have real data on who's doing a good job and who isn't. Okay, I have to say one more thing about that. And you know, Jeffrey, you're on here often enough to know we are huge into data here. We love the data, absolutely agree with the data. But, not but. There is no but there. We love the data. The data does tell the story. But our interpretation can sometimes be a little bit wonky. Now, we do know that about data as well. You have to interpret correctly. Because somebody's score is dropping does not necessarily mean that they're doing a bad job. There are multiple reasons why somebody can have data that is a little bit out of whack. There might be some miscommunication going on. There could be a breach of expectation. They could have heard something that made them think that, who knows, I'll give you an example here. Sorry for all these examples today. We had a job. This is called the Bayless story. We have a lot of stories in my company. This is called the Bayless story. I was at a job and I was upstairs. This is back in the day. I think I was doing a quality check or something. So upstairs, and we had 2 vacuums at this time. We had an Oric, and then we also had a Kenmore, like a floor vacuum, because we worked in large teams a lot of times. So we needed 2 vacuums. And so we're upstairs and we had the Oric upstairs and it threw a belt. And so I called from upstairs, hey, we can't have this Oric up here. Somebody grab a canister vac and bring it up here. Well, this team was on their notes. They instantly updated the work order to read, you cannot use an Oric upstairs at Bayless. Of course, that's not what I said, not what I meant, right? But that was what the work order now said. About 8 months later, I went back to Bayless for something and somebody said, hey, we need the canister upstairs here at Bayless. And I was like, why are you guys lugging the canister back upstairs for one little tiny piece of carpet at Bayless? Liz, you said we can't use. So there are times, many times, that can happen. I know that was a really long-winded story. Sorry, y'all. But that happens a lot where we can get into a situation where we can think somebody's doing a bad job when really there might be something else going on. And just because somebody is missing something, I don't necessarily think they're doing I don't know that I would term that as bad.
So to bring that back to engagement and one-on-ones, I guess that would be one of the benefits of having one-on-ones. Hopefully you could get some clarity on stuff like that.
But it would also be something to be brought up for the whole team, right? Y'all need to
Yeah.
be watching out for this stuff.
Yeah. Hopefully somebody would say, hey, Liz, just curious, why is it that we can't use the Oric at the Bayless house?
Yeah, and they're probably not going to think about that. After they leave the Bayless house, how many times do your employees talk about a job from yesterday or 3 days ago when they're in their one-on-one? They don't care why they don't use the vacuum. They know they're not supposed to use the vacuum. They don't use the vacuum. And there's some stuff they do care about, but for the most part.
In a perfect world, they say, hey, Liz, it's just one little teeny piece of carpet. How come we can't use...
That would be the perfect world. So we live in the United States of America, Tom.
All right. Okay.
So Liz, I have to ask you a question about something that you brought up a while ago. You said that you don't want anybody at your company longer than 5 years. Did I hear that right?
She fires them. She fires them after 5 years.
Not. I do have people obviously that have been at my company for longer than 5 years as technicians. I don't want them working as technicians for longer than 5 years. It's expensive. It's hard on their bodies. You know, I end up paying more in different things that I would have to do. So yeah, I prefer not to have people in our company for long. We had so many people that were working for us for long periods of time, and we were paying for, you know, rotator cuff and wrist and all of these other problems that kind of went away with the 5 year.
Get them out so that can be somebody else's workers' comp problem.
Well, I just want them to be doing a different job, maybe. Or
I have to say this, Liz. When I left, we had 60 people. I'm going to say at least 20, and I need to now check my records. Were with me 10 years or longer, because at 5 years, they all got 3 weeks vacation. So, you know, this was a vacation. It went to the eldest person first, and it took them a couple of months to finally get the thing, you know. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I think that was the backbone of our company, because they were supervisors. So when they're supervisors, they dust. They didn't, because they were 3-people teams. They were dusting and doing the mini vacuum. So not real physically difficult. They weren't doing bathrooms. They weren't even doing kitchens. But boy, they were the backbone of my company, because they knew the clients. They could roll with things.
I do love that. I have to admit, Sharon, I love that part of it. And they also hold your culture together.
Yes,
right?
they do.
They really do hold your culture. Yeah.
The boss, pardon me, John?
Maybe you wait till 6 years to fire them.
And the other thing is, it's not just that most of the people that I have coming into my jobs do not see this as a career job. I'm not saying when they start. And so I don't want to turn it into a career job for people who are not planning on it as a career job. If they have, because most of the people that would come to work for my company, and still to this day, this is true, they have aspirations of something else, something more, something different. And so I want to encourage that and be part of that process.
I have a number of people in Castle Keepers that have been with us 10 and in some cases 20. Yeah. And they're awesome at what they do. They're true professionals, and
they love to clean. I, of all people, because I never cleaned the house. I'm not somebody who went, hey, I'm good at this, I'm going to start a company. I mean, I walked right into the ownership role. I wouldn't clean a company. I personally, I'll tell you right now, I would never choose this career. I could not clean bathrooms all day long. But there are people who absolutely love it. And thank God for those people.
And I just don't want them working at my company. I'd rather have them working at there's another company right down the road that also cleans. Work there.
We're quickly jamming up on the top of the hour, but I want to get to Jeffrey's question, because Jeffrey, I love your thinking. I wanted to ask this question too, but you beat me to it. How long should these one-on-one meetings be?
Well, I could get through my 7 things in 5 minutes if they were a great team and they wanted out. But if somebody needs more time, and believe me, when you get to the part of, I ask them every single week, how am I doing? every single week, probably because of my inferiority complex. I wanted to know I was doing a good job. And if we got to something like that, or how are things going on your team, they were on my list. If somebody goes on blah, 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 Jeff, it could take 30 minutes. And it probably will happen when you're running way behind. And that is not the time you can pull the plug. You just can't. And don't give up on the other meetings. Do like I said. Yank them in, pull them to the side, say, hey, do we need to talk? If they say no, give them their checks and let them go. But
I think the question is more about frequency and how often to do the one-on-one meetings. And
once a week.
Frequency, once a week.
I think 2 weeks is too much.
Yeah. So once a week for approximately 5 minutes, unless more is needed.
Exactly.
I agree with Sharon. Once a week is ideal. We also have a little bit more in-depth quarterly, where we spend a little bit more time, and that has a different agenda. But we also have an agenda for our weekly, and I like it to be. Mine's a little bit longer than yours is, Sharon. When we were hourly, we had like a 5 minute, but now that we are
hourly,
yeah, hourly is a little bit shorter. Now ours is more like 15 minutes, and we do an equipment check.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, even if it's hourly, if I ended up paying them all full hour, but I saved one of them, money well spent.
Money well spent. Agreed.
Yes.
We're out of town. So Sharon, thank you. This was awesome. Always fun.
We never talked about the most engaging part, which is the training piece.
We're gonna have you back, Sharon.
Yeah. You can come back. We'll pick up on that. So we're gonna be back next Wednesday. We're kind of doing a 1 week cadence now, so we're not gonna be here Monday. We're done for the week. So we're gonna be back a week from today, 5 o'clock Eastern. Keep an eye on Facebook. We're going to be getting more details about what we're going to be doing next week. So until this time next week, everybody take care, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.